Of all the cars that you can buy in India, a small roadster under ₹1 crore has been something that's starkly missing. But the new MG Cyberster changes that. Now MG has all the credibility that you might want when it comes to small sports cars. But will this being an EV make it a bit of a compromise? Let's find out. Traditionally, you'd want a winding country road to fully enjoy your MG Roadster. But the Cyberster is packing some serious firepower with its 510 PS and 725 Nm all-wheel drive setup. So the Buddh International Circuit seems good enough to put it through its paces. The weather got a bit tricky by the time we got to driving the Cyberster, so tail wagging was the order of the day. Also, we had some trouble with our audio on the story, so apologies in advance. Nice.
It's because it's raining, right? So
yeah.
Turn the AC on now.
So as you just saw, the MG Cyberster will get its tail out. It's not recommended, don't do it. Don't turn off the AC in the open road because this is a potent car. Now, unlike a traditional small roadster, the Cyberster is nearly 2 tons. MG has worked on creating a stiff chassis and made the battery pack relatively thin at 110 mm, but there's only so much you can hide physics. But the big power figures and low EV mass help hide the MG's weight if you aren't going to be pushing the Cyberster's limits on a racetrack every day. There is 50-50 weight distribution and a rear biased 38-62 torque split. This is impressive considering the MG is packing a large 77 kWh battery pack with 580 km of MIDC range. This also means you will get those traffic light thrills like with other fast EVs. So as you can see, this is the launch control of the MG Cyberster. It's actually surprisingly quick. It'll do 0 to 100 in 3.2 seconds. Let me just show you what it looks like. So I put it in the super sport mode, ESC off, left foot fully on the brake, right foot fully on the accelerator. I get this sort of boost kind of graphic on the dash and wow. The Cyberster keeps pulling quite hard till about 150 kmph. It does taper off a bit after that, but you will be able to hit 200 kmph easily in this car. The battery pack means that you sit a bit higher off the ground than in an ICE sports car, but a lot of the experience has been recreated here. You get that sports car experience on the move. The Cyberster feels tied down and confident around corners. You can hold good speeds. The car moves around a little bit underneath you, but there's also a good degree of grip on offer with the wide 20-inch wheels. It's agile enough even if the downright balance and agility of a lighter sports car may not be present. You have those bulges at the edges of the bonnet, so that experience is there. And I have to say, for something that is 510 horsepower, this is quite manageable. Of course, you still have to be careful in that sense, but it's very easy to get used to. You might think that with all-wheel drive and with so much power coming through the wheels, it might feel a bit heavy on the nose, but while it's not as darty or as slick as maybe a purely rear-wheel drive sports car might be, this is not bad at all. Considering the pricing, considering where you are, this will probably be a first fast car. In that sense, I think it's very approachable. I also must say about the steering and the brake. The Brembo 4-piston calipers really come into their own on a racetrack. MG says the Cyberster will go from 100 kmph to a standstill in 33 meters, and it seems like a good claim. There's none of that lightness or distant feel that you get from the regen system in many EVs. The Cyberster is easy to modulate on the brakes and confident even in the wet conditions we drove it in. The steering is predictable and linear. It doesn't have a lot of feedback but has good heft. Now you'll see that when the roof of the Cyberster is tucked away, there's no cover for it, which I think is a bit of a miss. I don't know what will happen when all the water goes through here, but we'll have to figure that out later. But what happens is, even with the roof tucked away, you have a lot of boot space. It's shallow, yes, but a couple of bags, soft bags for 2 people, I think can be easily done in it, which I think is quite nice. The front doesn't really hold anything, but you also get a small recess behind the seats for small items, so there's enough luggage space in the MG. MG has managed to create the traditional roadster dimensions with the Cyberster and gotten its footprint right. You have the long nose and short rear proportions well executed. The front is smart with the small lights and the simple surfaces. The bodywork too has good creases and curves in the right places, so attention on the road will be easy to come by. But the rear could have been a bit less busy, especially with the nice flat look to it. There is a lot going on with the lighting which doesn't quite seem to go with the front. Also, the Cyberster font seems to be a bit too similar to the one Porsche uses for its models, for my liking. But you have what is possibly one of the best party tricks of any car at this price in India. Those scissor doors are quite an event and work great most of the time. There's also enough redundancies built in for you to not miss the actual physical door latches. You have 4 buttons to open the doors at various places, including a manual release behind the seats. Now with the MG Cyberster, one thing that you need to know that with this being an EV, it doesn't quite sit as low or as committed as a regular roadster. Now, if you're just looking for something to make a statement in, then that's good because ingress and egress is easier that way, especially if you're slightly older. Now, coming to the cabin, the first thing that you need to know that if you're over 6 feet tall, then this place is going to be a bit of a tight fit. But if you're like me, about 5'6", 5'7", then this place fits you perfectly. As you can see, the seats are very comfortable for my liking. They have this very organic kind of finish with the suede, feels quite nice. And it kind of hugs me well enough. Now the overall theme behind this layout makes a lot of sense. You have this 10.25-inch screen in front of you and these 2 smaller sort of 7-inch pods. Now they are a bit difficult to use. As you may know, MG screens aren't the slickest. And that kind of shows here. One side gives you all the infotainment. The other side gives you a lot of the settings which you can also access through here. So in that sense, it's good that you have this kind of redundancies and everything is sort of within your line of sight. But one of the things that happens is that the steering wheel kind of blocks your view of these 2 screens on many occasions. When you want to use them, you still want to be stopped at a traffic light and only then use it. Another party trick are the sound modes which come across as quite natural on the inside, but you do get taken back by that supersonic jet-like external sound design, which is a nice surprise. Here's all of the other features that you get with the Cyberster. You get 4 bags with the Cyberster, and here's all the other safety equipment that you get. Also, MG has done extensive work with the car's structure to resist rollover. Surprisingly, you don't get an auto-dimming rear view mirror, but then you usually rely on the camera since rearward visibility is tight. Steering feels quite nice to hold. It's just the right size. This flat bottom kind of theme to it works pretty well. You have this button to directly put you in that super sport mode, with the most powerful mode with the launch control and so on. A lot of buttons to interact with these screens. So in that sense, it's quite nice. I especially like how these joystick buttons move. They have a nice tactile feel. The interiors could have had a brighter display in open light, but thoughtfully the paddles control regen and the drive modes, and you have direct control of the steering modes right from the steering wheel. The drive selector reminds you of the one in the last CRV, but that also means that it's quite easy to use. And all the important functions, I must say, like the door opening, the roof opening mechanisms, they're all hard physical buttons, which is a good thing. Yes, a lot of the climate controls are in the touch panel, but you see that in a lot of MG cars, and that's par for the course now. Having said that, I really quite like the finish in this cabin. You have suede around here like this. You have this cockpit view with the suede lining, the suede in the door cards, and all the stitching. Everything is very nicely done. Pretty much every surface is soft that you interact with. So in that sense, it's good. Yes, maybe these paddles could have been made slightly heftier, but that's really a small price play because you get that sense that this is a... We spent little time actually driving the Cyberster, so it remains to be seen how it handles typical Indian conditions. It may not be as engaging as a traditional rear-driven ICE sports car, but the Cyberster has great performance and feels cohesive and direct enough for those looking for a smattering of driving feel. But for ₹75 lakh, few cars will get you as much attention and outright speed as a Cyberster. The screens need some work, but the cabin feels plush for good measure.